Jeep hire costs about 5,000 rupees. You can estimate how much a Jeep drivers are earning. So from that, I postulated or calculated that about 1.7 billion is the value of the gathering for 5 months of the year. That's a lot of money to a lot of stakeholders. The Department of Wildlife, the hoteliers, and the stakeholders, particularly the Jeep drivers. In a similar fashion, I did it for Yala. But before that, this was the sad day. The highest ever visitation in Yala. For one day, we had 3,300 visitors. 610 jeeps entered the park. That was, I think, the wildlife department says that's a record. I think it was a sad day for wildlife of Yala. So based on the same premise, 1,400 units in this case, the rate is about $115 here. Same way I calculated and said it will be about 7 billion rupees that Yala is worth for the country. But no one seems to be listening. They say, oh, nice, very good, but it has not shaken anyone to take some drastic action. So, therefore, the conclusion in this part, before I go to the next part of my presentation, is that wildlife tourism, therefore, is a very vital part of our tourism portfolio, and we have only 38% people going in there, and there's a lot of room for development. Now we'll talk about the subject I like most, even better than tourism. What is it that in the elephant that we all like? Even the Department of Wildlife logo carries an elephant. I know there are lots of specialist field people in the audience, but I think they will agree with me that its sheer majesty, the power, the regality of the elephant. If you have been out there and worked with elephants, you will realize how intelligent these guys are, how strong, calm, confident, and awe-inspiring. Just to come, the sheer size of these guys are pretty awesome. And to come eyeballing up to an elephant like that next to my Toyota and wondering whether I should put the shutter down or shutter up, not wanting to even breathe, not knowing what he is going to do next, that's the adrenaline that fires you. And that all of us, I have still to come across a person who says they don't like elephants. And that is this issue about this charismatic megafauna, because anything big like elephants, rhinoceros, hippopotamus are all these animals that inspire this in us in some way. Some sort of fright maybe, some sort of majesty, so big, so strong. So they are called umbrella effect, because when you talk about them, the rest of the wildlife gets protected, gets talked about. Similarly, they are called keystone species because they can affect the environment a lot. So they are very powerful animals who take the lead role in environment protection or conservation. So by talking about that animal, you can therefore look after a lot of other things. So that's why the elephant is very important. I tried to do this on my own, a matrix, charismatic index, observability index, and visibility index. You can see the elephant scores high. Any time of the year, most parks you can see elephants, but not the others. They have certain other factors, seasonality, but 12 months of the year you can see elephants. So wild elephants, just quickly to run you through some, I have bored you with a lot of figures. Where on earth can you see elephants like this? This was just outside Seenuggala. I was sitting on the bench there when this guy started walking at me. These most of my photographs are Udavalaway because I have done work there. Where do you see a site like that? Grandstand view, babies, close-ups in Min area. This was an interesting shot. My son, wherever the photographs are not mine, I have indicated that's my son Dimitri. We stayed there for about half an hour patiently to wait for the elephant to come out. As you know, female elephants are very, very protective of their young, and she was obviously very, very confident that she put the young on our side. Normally they'll put the young on the other side and cover them and go. Here we got some good shots of the baby coming out. The young males, as you know, spar with each other. They are till they become big enough. And elephants do weird things. They can stand on their hind feet. This guy is looking for one tamarind pod which has caught his eye. So they are interesting guys. They'll do the craziest things. They're very intelligent. My friends here in the audience who have worked with elephants will give you enough of information about that. And this is Dr. Shermin's beautiful shot. She won some awards for this. She did some work after I did my research there. And these elephants had got to trust her so much that these three fellows had slept in front of her jeep for about half an hour. So what a wonderful, enlightening sight this is. Of course, occasionally you get the guy who has had a bad day at work or bad day with his wife, and this guy just came at us without any provocation whatsoever, and we had to take evasive action. That also comes occasionally, but by and large they are very peaceful animals. So we have about, someone asked me when I was outside, 5,500, 6,000, I don't know, we are counting, we are having census, we are going to have another census. So I don't know how many elephants. It's very difficult to count elephants. We have 10% of the elephant population of Asia. These are just some figures for you. But the important thing here is that 60% of the wild elephants are outside the national park. So that's where this human-elephant conflict comes. And we have the highest density, obviously, small island, too many elephants, quite honestly. And the distribution, this is Dr. Devakar's photograph. At the start of the century, we had elephants all over. And now there is only a few left in this part. That is in Singaraja, there are 1 or 2 left. And the rest of it is in the north central and southern provinces. This is the important thing what has happened to us. Just to go a little bit outside and come back to tourism again. This is the forest cover in 1950, and that's the forest cover now. So it's not the loss that is important for the elephants, it's the fragmentation that is causing the problem. Because elephants need to roam and connect with each other. So when you have this fragmentation and villages that have come up inside, then you have the confrontation. And when you have confrontation, you have death. This was when we were doing one of our research programs in Hambegamu or somewhere. They couldn't bury the carcass, and that's the sad statistics that we have. We lose about 250 elephants every year. That's about 3.5 to 4 elephants every week. So of various causes, of course. And of course there are human deaths, 50, 60, now coming close to 70. So that's the problem that we have. I don't know how tourism can help, but the population also, as I said, we had 15,000, we are down to about 5,000 now. The elephant is in the IUCN Red List as an endangered species. Now we'll come to elephants and tourism quickly. This talk is all about wild elephants. I'm not going to the space of tame elephants because that's a very controversial subject. I don't want to get into controversy there. I have had enormous controversy and got hammered all over. I'll rather keep out of it. I know only wild elephants and I'll talk about wild elephants. But of course, hotels use elephants for riding. It has been a big draw. But I must tell you very responsibly that most of the hotels now have decided that we will do away with this thing, and there is a lot of Facebook stuff going on, Stop Elephant Back, and I can confidently tell you, I spoke to both the presidents yesterday. The SLITO is the Sri Lanka Association of Inbound Tour Operators, who have taken a stand that they will not sell elephant rides. Right? The tour operators are not going to sell elephant rides, and neither will hotels encourage guests to ride elephants. But this brings me back to that picture I told you about the informal sector. Now this is the formal sector. In fact, people call me sometimes in the night and say, we saw an elephant at Benthora Beach. So I immediately call up Susanta or Ajit and say, look, this has happened, do something about it. And immediately it's done. But we don't have that reach to go out and talk to the informal sector. So people start criticizing us, but the formal sector is doing what we can. Yes, we have done wrong things, but at least now we are looking forward. We understand that this is bad and we are stopping it. But what happens is we don't have any control of the Habaran elephants who are being taken for a walk every day. We don't have any control there. So this is the problem that we have. That is the issue there, because we control only 50% of the guests. 50% of guests who come to Sri Lanka, this is my research I did, come and stay in conventional hotels. The rest of the people are staying outside in other hotels, which we don't have a reach on. So this is where the government has to step in, because we can't do anything about it, because they are going out there, we don't have a hold on them. Now to branding wild elephants for tourism, the last part of my talk. This is something I started some time ago. The elephant is the largest land mammal on earth, and we in Sri Lanka have it. The blue whale is the largest animal that ever lived in the world, even larger than the dinosaurs. And little old Sri Lanka has enough blue whales. So why not use these two and say, this is what we have, the largest animal on land and the largest animal that ever lived. So I'm happy that Tourist Board has picked this up. I tried to do this also. In one day, you can see both the largest animals together. If you leave at 5 o'clock, you can go to Mirissa, watch whales during the season, and then by 12 o'clock, come back. I tried it, and go to Udawalawe and see elephants. So this is what I'm trying to say. You must present it in a way that is appealing to people. Not that we have whales, yes, we have elephants. No, this is the biggest animal. This is the biggest animal that ever lived in this earth, and we have this fellow here in this small little island. So I think all of us must be thankful for this wonderful gift that we have been betrothed with, and we must see that it does not get damaged, which is already happening. Then when I was doing some work, I stumbled on another little interesting thing to say. We got the largest land animal and we got the smallest animal. I checked this with IUCN and they confirmed the pygmy shrew. So why don't we talk about this? It's appealing stories. Not that we have elephants. Yes, Thailand has elephants, India has elephants, all over. Now this is what we must spin, the marketing spin that you have to give. The gathering, as you know, has got international acclaim. Where will you see 300, 400 elephants out in the open? Like that, you don't have to have any tracker. You just drive up there and just park your car and the elephants are all over you. And that is one thing that got us an international branding with Lonely Planet. We are rated as the world's 6th greatest wildlife spectacle, the gathering. We must be very proud of this. We must be shouting from the rooftops using this, because whether you like it or not, the Lonely Planet is considered as a sort of a benchmark, and for them to rate Sri Lanka as number 6. But a little word of caution. Gehan, Vijayaratna and I are supposed to be the two people who coined this word gathering. Just a quick thing, if there are marketing people, how we branded this was, he called me one evening. I was at the Chamber of Commerce working at that time. He called me and said, what are you doing? Let's have a drink. And you know, down Navam Mawata, there's that watering hole, White Horse. Yeah. After about 6 beers, we suddenly said, hey, this is a nice name, gathering. So no market research done, but the name stuck, and everyone took it and helped us. So that's how the gathering came, but now people are saying Gehan and Srilal are the one who made this too popular, and now we are ruining it. This is another way of looking at it. And a journalist, 26 leopards in 4 days. 26 leopards, 16 blue whales. So what I'm trying to get at here is we must start looking at branding tourism in a different way. I tried to brand Sri Lanka as a big four. If Africa has big five, why not Sri Lanka big four? You piggyback on the brand that is knowledge people know about. Big five, everyone knows Africa. Okay, you can't do Africa, come to Sri Lanka for big four. So these are various taglines that we have tried, most of us. And again, this is private sector led. The tourist board or the tourism authority must take this and realize that this is a great potential to leverage and to get some mileage out of it and work on it. Promoting wildlife. That was branding, this is promoting. We have no proper communication, we are not focused on promoting wildlife, it's not marketed properly, there are no interesting stories. Yes, we have elephants, we have leopards, one elephant, two elephant here, that's all. Where are the stories? Where are the human appealing stories, signage? We recently heard of a British tourist who was killed by a crocodile. And now they are going on putting signs, beware of the crocodile. Very poor signage, no accurate leaflets. Yes, we have a lovely leaflet about Minneria Park, all the stuff. But what is it about Minneria? What is that park about? The damming, how the water level recedes. What are these elephants doing? So that's what I'm trying to say. So the promotion therefore must be based on sustainability principles, upholding animal rights, enhancing the experience of a guest, and protecting and enriching. Remember the sustainable principles. So I believe, which means you must observe these animals in the natural surroundings without disrupting their natural behavior. That's very important. And ensuring that wildlife management improves. So let's look at some examples. I believe elephants, we are talking about elephants here. As I told you, they are very intelligent animals. You can create a lot of human appeal stories. Elephants have their individual personalities. So I'll share with you quickly some ideas, some experience that I have been trying to push. Firstly, let's talk about the ETH. That's also reasonably wild elephants. They are kept in the transit home for a while and sent out. There are about 120 elephants that have been released right now. Right now there are 40 elephants there. They are kept with minimal human interaction, only feeding, and then they are left to... But the interesting thing is, ever so often, say twice or thrice a year, about 5 or 6 of these guys are released with collars. Now these are foster babies. You have people who pay for the upkeep during the time they are in the transit home. So you have foster parents. They come and take photographs. So what I did was, I said, why are we just sending these out? Can't we make a pitch out of it? And at that time, Dilip Muddadeniya was the MD, and we made a huge hue and cry about the release. We took about 20 journalists by bus to Udawalawe, and we had a press conference. We had the priests chanting prayers and blessing the 7 elephants, and they were released. We had the foster parents crying. Believe me, it was a very touching experience, right? When they were sent out of the lorry and they wouldn't go, and they had to be prodded because they had got used to us. So it was a lovely thing, and it went worldwide. This is the human appeal story that we must talk about, not just that we released elephants with a collar. What happens? And some good stories about the released elephants. This is Sandamali in Udawalawe. She was released, she has calved, she has 2 babies now. And this is Sandamali. She is very friendly because she has grown up with some human interaction. You will never get very rarely we will get a female bringing a baby like that. She will come right up to the jeep most often because she has got used living in the orphanage. And this is a Bullet who was released, a lovely tusker. So these are some good things that happen. Then there's Namal at the transit home. He came with a very bad snare wound. They tried to save him but couldn't. They had to amputate the limb. So unfortunately, Namal is not going to be released. He will be forever in the care on the ETH. But nice stories to talk about how people have taken this elephant and looked after him. He had an inverted bucket for a prosthetic limb. Few of us contacted an American specialist who was working in Thailand, and we got expert opinion from him. And today he has a lovely prosthetic limb, and he runs about, of course still limping. To a great extent he is mobile, and he's a lovely guy. And every time I go, I have to take watermelon and bananas for him. You can see do I have a pointer here? Anyway, the hind leg on the left hand side, you can see it is very camouflaged and very nicely done, the prosthetic. Of course, he outgrows it every 6 months. Some other characters around whom stories can be built. The infamous Gamunu of Yala, we all know him. He has been used to getting food from people, but this is a time bomb waiting for something to happen, because he's a big, mature tusker. And I did a small experiment. As I was telling some people, I work under the radar. I don't like to go and talk to the authorities. So I spoke to my friend Daya Ratnayaka. I said, look, this is positive reinforcement. Can I negatively reinforce this guy? So my theory was, I'll take chilies in my jeep, and let's see, let the guy put the trunk and see, then he'll get negative reinforcement. So Daya was very scared. He said, please don't go and throw it. I said, no, don't worry, I won't throw it at him. Passive. So I went to Yala for 3 days. Cinnamon Wild provided me with the kitchen, and we bought 2 kilos of capsicum and red chilies, and we pounded it and took 2 bags in the jeep. I went 3 times. Unfortunately, Gamino decided not to come anywhere close to me. He was not there. I don't know whether he got the smell. But unfortunately, I had to get back to Colombo, so I couldn't finish that little research. This is my friend Rambo, whom I have worked with for a long time. People say he's the beggar elephant. I will tell you otherwise. He's on the bond every day. Every one of us have seen Rambo. Rambo's story goes back about 20 years. He was one of the first who came up to the wire fence, if you remember, along the Tanamal Villa Road. I will show you this section here. That is Tanamal Villa, where the elephants were. But the wildlife department put 2 fences there and chased those guys off. Everyone went off except Rambo, the so-called beggar elephant, who's absolutely intelligent bloke. He swam across the reservoir and came up to that steep bund to eat. Right? So I don't think Rambo is a beggar. He's one of the smartest elephants that is in the park. So you can actually hand feed him now. It's dangerous. Again, once Daya called me and said, look, I am under pressure to do something to this guy. Can you help me? Put up some boards. Yes, I said, I got 1 lakh from a friend from a corporate, and I went and put up these boards. Do not feed the elephant. And right under the board, he is being fed. Right? So that's the story of Sri Lanka, right? So the poor elephant is at fault at the end, because people are stopping and getting. But importantly, if there is proper communication, this can be done. Once I stopped when a foreigner was feeding this, and I told, look, don't do this. And then she asked me why, and I said, look, you have certain germs that can be transmitted to this animal. And she was very apologetic. She said, my gosh, I'm sorry, no one told me this. Of course, the guide was looking daggers at me because his tip went down the drain. But then, too bad, right? Someone to communicate this to them. As I told you, I have known this young fellow when he was about 20 years. Now he's about 40 years, I think, 40, 45 maybe. That is then and now. An interesting story, Rambo got lost. I'm famous for looking at these fellows who get lost because the wildlife department doesn't do anything. So I said, look, Rambo is missing for the last 2 months. And one day when I went, I saw this like a stone there.